I joined the gang at a very young age, between the age of 12 and 13. I had a rough life. Chicago was a hard place to grow up. Unfortunately, I took that route. Years have passed, and I pretty much mastered the craft, so to speak, of the streets. Give my life to, I consider them like a family to me. And come to find out, they stabbed me in the back and set me up to get me killed. Hey, wait a minute, something is not right. And I had a weird feeling in my gut about this guy. All of a sudden, I looked up, and the guy looked at me with a smirk. He just kind of like evil grin, like, I got you. It was just like it was so evil. But I just remember everything moving in slow motion, and I fell back. But the weirdest part was when I fell backwards, I started instantly falling forward. I was falling down, face forward. But as I'm falling, I don't even know how to measure it. They say the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. It was faster than that. It was just going. But the further I'm going down, just falling and falling, the more and more I felt like I was getting stripped of everything. I knew I was getting stripped of the things that God gave me that I took for granted, like hope, love, fellowship, patience, everything. The further I was falling down fast, everything was getting stripped from me. And I was getting more and more afraid. But this is a different type of fear. But as I'm falling, I hear this laughter. The second thing that caught my attention was this horrible smell. See, people don't realize when you leave the physical body, you still have your five senses. You still have them, but the thing is they're upgraded, modified. They're very more modified. Times a million. Your sight, your hearing, your vision, your touch, everything you still have those things. So this is not a fairy tale where people, been taught that when you die, you just pass away. Everything's completely different. Yeah, it is different, but your senses are highly modified. And as I'm falling, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then that's when it hit me. I knew. And I thought it was a fairy tale. I'm not going to lie. I just thought hell was a fairy tale. I thought it was a place of fantasy. I thought it was a scare tactic used by religions. I knew. I said, I'm going to hell. See, time doesn't exist over in eternity the way it exists here. So all the time that I'm falling, people say, how would you have time? Time doesn't exist the way you can't even fathom it. Eternity, it has no time. So as I'm falling, I knew this was hell. And then I heard the screams of the people. You can just hear, and I knew it had to be billions, hundreds of millions of billions of people down there. Screaming, and then their screams are gut-wrenching. The same way I heard those demonic laughs, I can feel it in my gut and feel it in my soul. Those screams were worse because it was suffering. It was blasphemous things being yelled. It was just horrible. People begging for one more chance. The thing is, when you're in the spirit, you can hear 1,000 noises at one time, but you can decipher and know each one, whether they're playing simultaneously or not. You can distinctively know and hear everything. Like I said, it's hard to explain, but that's the closest I can get to it. All I remember is when I hit the bottom. I didn't feel anything when I first hit. So I'm trying to think, I was asking, was it the Lord that softened the blow when I first hit? But when I fell and I raised my eyes, it felt like I had no strength. I felt like I hadn't eaten for like months. I couldn't breathe. It was horrible. Just a feeling of just nothing. And then, but the only thing that kept coming to my mind was, and I know the Lord did this purposely, was thinking that everything that I took for granted, movement, a drink of water, just to have the ability to move my arms just freely, the ability to breathe, all the things that we take for granted, it was going through my mind. I knew it came from God. First thing is I look over. See, it was dark. But I'm trying to, wonder if the Lord was making me be able to see. But the flames itself were emitting so high from these pews, like these vents from the rocks. And that's another thing, too, I want to add. I don't want to move too fast, but one thing I do want to add. For some reason, I knew I was still here on Earth. I still knew I wasn't in outer space somewhere. I wasn't under space. I was in a different dimension, but I was still on Earth. I knew that. I knew it's here on Earth. So the Lord is right. Hell is a place on earth. The scriptures are right. It is here on earth. It's just a different dimension. So as I'm looking around and I'm just already, but I see when the flames, they come up and then you can see the illumination from the flames. You can see. And the first thing I noticed were these demons, things. They're the most grotesque, smelliest. Hollywood can't even get close to how these things look. They're so deformed. They had legs and twisted arms, but they had a reptilian look, a reptile look to them. And their eyes were glowing yellow. Some of them eyes were red. Some of them were like 13 feet tall. Some of them were this big. They're everywhere, and it's just bugs, there's spiders, there's just everything. But what really caught my attention was these pits everywhere. And this one demon glanced at me, and he started laughing. But down in the pits were just people. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just people. But then I thought it was just one pit. As you really look around and the flames illuminate all of the space around, there's, I would say, hundreds of thousands of pits. And then within each pit are thousands of people. Okay. And then around the pits, you have nothing but these grotesque demon reptilian or reptile-like things, making sure they don't crawl out. It was horrible. You have people who look like bone. I would say they look like bones. Some of them were bones with actually flesh hanging off, which is incomprehensible to some people to even imagine how, but the things that I saw and the tortures that I saw is that you regenerate. So just say if your arm falls off, it'll grow right back so you can get tortured again. It's a place of pure torture, like torture. Hell is it's no relief. There's nothing. But as I'm looking at this one demon, he was about 8 feet tall. He looked at me and laughed. And then all I remember was these thousands of maggots, worms, and they're like thick. They're thick. They're thick as soda cans. Okay, they're not like regular maggots here in this dimension. But one thing that I noticed when you're in hell and when you're internally in a spirit body, you can look at a person inside hell and you know why they're there. You instantaneously know, you know why that person is there. I've seen people there for unforgiveness. I've seen people there who thought they were the best in the church, saying, why did you do this to me? I've seen pastors there. I've seen even some preteens in hell. I've seen a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing, but they're no. Like, for example, the first lady who I saw getting tortured individually, not the people in the pits. There were 2 demons, and they were laughing, these reptile things, and they had her mouth, and they stretched her mouth so far back, like to rip her jaws open, and they were pouring lava down her throat and sticking her throat with spears and just like these old ancient looking rusty daggers, and they were getting a kick, and it was horrible. But then the fact is, she turned the bone, she was breaking up, and then she would rejuvenate. And they would do it all over again and over again and over. And they were taking turns. They were inviting other demonic spirits. They were laughing. They were having fun torturing this lady. And when I looked, and I really knew, this has to be the Lord, I already knew why she was there. She was there because not only was she a gossiper, she was gossiping about people. She got many people life turned because of her tongue, and she was an alcoholic. And I'm starting to, there was a theme in hell I started to notice, because people commit a lot of sins on a wide spectrum. But the one that sticks out the most is the one that's going to rectify, that you're going to get inside hell. So they say, a person who is promiscuous, and that's another one. I'm going to keep it not explicit, but I saw a young lady in hell. There were demons literally taking turns having sex with this woman. And when I say it's not regular sexual intercourse, it was beyond mind. I mean, I can't say too much to describe, but all I can say is that she was very promiscuous when she was here on this earth, and they were torturing her in ways that you can't even imagine. But the second thing I remember is another section of hell. And that's another thing. When you move in hell, there's no really walking around. When he's showing you, it's like you instantaneous, it's like teleportation. When I teleported to this other part of hell, okay, I saw these cells, okay, and I grew up in skyscrapers, uptown Chicago. Grew up on the 16th floor, and these things were taller than that. These things had to be 50 stories tall, and there was a row of them, all the way as your eyes can see, looking up. And they are open old bar cells, and there are people in them. There are people in them. Some of them look like skeletons. Some of them were just burned, like to a crisp. And they're cursing God, and they were just very angry to be there. There was no repentance. There was no asking for another chance. Those are the ones who were just very angry at our Lord. They were very angry. Some of them even started looking like almost a reptilian look because of the hatred coming out of them. And also, I noticed some of them been there for thousands of years. See, that's the thing. People don't understand. Time doesn't exist in eternity. It doesn't. The clock stops. And I realized that. I saw people there who were there 2,000 years, 4,000, and you just know the ancientness of it. When I saw those cells, that's when things started to awaken to me. I saw mostly those who were in those cells were people who dabbled in witchcraft. those who dabbled in Santeria, those who dabbled in all kind of tarot cards, those who wanted to know the future and astrology. I just know, like I told you, once you go there, you know. You can just look at a person and you know while they're there. And mostly I saw there was a thing to those people in those cells, and those are the people who worship other gods or the doctrines of demons, is what they call also in the scriptures.
My friend, all I can say is that hell is a place to be shunned and heaven is a place to be gained. If you don't want to go to hell but would like to go to heaven, please subscribe and or follow this channel, but watch the video link that I've placed below that tells you how you can give your life to Jesus Christ and go to heaven.